The first time Ethan said it, nobody was screaming, nobody was bleeding, nothing was broken. It was just 2:17 a.m., and he was standing at the hallway window in his dinosaur pajamas, staring across the street. His mother found him there, pale and shaking. "He doesn't blink," Ethan whispered. "Who doesn't blink, sweetheart?" "Our neighbor." Across the quiet suburban street, in the yellow glow of a single porch light, Mr. Hallberg stood perfectly still at the edge of his lawn, not smoking, not on his phone, not looking around, just standing, facing Ethan's house. And in the 3 full minutes, Ethan's mother stood there trying to calm him down. He never blinked once. Ethan Morales was 9 years old. He liked astronomy books, grilled cheese sandwiches, and pretending his golden retriever, Scout, could understand full sentences. He was not dramatic, not prone to lies, not the kind of kid who cried wolf. Which is why, 2 weeks after the Hallbergs moved in, his parents tried very hard to ignore the things he kept saying. "He watches me when I get off the bus. He doesn't walk right. He smells like pennies." His father, Daniel, would sigh and lower his newspaper. "Ethan, he's just an older guy. Maybe he's lonely," but Ethan would shake his head, frustrated tears forming. "No, Dad, lonely people blink." Mr. Hallberg had moved in quietly. No moving truck, no family, no furniture deliveries, just a dark sedan that arrived one afternoon and was parked neatly in the driveway by evening. The house had been vacant for nearly a year before that, its lawn overgrown, its windows dusty and blind. But within 3 days of Mr. Hallberg's arrival, the grass was cut. The porch light was fixed. The mailbox stood polished and straight, and yet no one ever saw him do the work. Mrs. Carter, next door, claimed she had waved at him once. He just stared, she told Ethan's mother while clipping roses. Didn't smile, didn't wave back, just stared like he was memorizing my face. "Some people are just awkward," Ethan's mother replied gently. But that night, Ethan couldn't sleep, because at exactly 2:17 a.m., the porch light came on again, and Mr. Hallberg stood in the yard, facing their house, the Trados will things. Ethan noticed that Mr. Hallberg never received mail. The mailbox stayed empty. No Amazon boxes, no grocery bags, no trash bins at the curb. Scout refused to go near the sidewalk in front of the house. The dog would whine, tugging backward, fur raised along his spine. One afternoon, Ethan pretended to forget his backpack on the bus so he'd have an excuse to walk back alone. Mr. Hallberg was outside, watering the same patch of lawn, only the hose wasn't connected to anything. Water didn't flow. He was just moving the nozzle back and forth. Ethan's stomach twisted. "Hi," Ethan forced out, because his mother always said it was polite. The man turned slowly. Too slowly. His face looked normal. Pale. Clean-shaven. Maybe mid-40s, but his eyes, they were too clear. Like glass marbles pressed into skin. "Hello, Ethan," he said. Ethan froze. He had never told him his name. "How do you know? I observe, Mr. Scrobble." Hallberg replied, head tilting slightly. "Observation is how we understand behavior. We." Ethan's heart began hammering. "You mean you understand people?" The man smiled. "I'm trying to." That night, Ethan told his parents everything. The name, the hose, the way he said "we." Daniel rubbed his temples. "Ethan, did he maybe see your backpack with your name on it?" "No." "Maybe he heard us call you?" "No." His mother knelt in front of him, hands on his shoulders. "Honey, sometimes when we don't understand someone, our brains fill in the gaps with scary ideas." "I'm not filling in gaps," Ethan shouted. "He's not like us." Silence hung heavy in the kitchen. His parents exchanged a look. The kind adults think kids don't notice. The kind that says, "He's imagining things." 3 nights later, the power went out. Not the whole neighborhood, just their house. Daniel stepped outside with a flashlight while Ethan watched from the living room window. Across the street, Mr. Hallberg stood on his porch, in complete darkness, watching, and then he smiled. Slowly, deliberately. Ethan's breath fobbed the glass, and for the first time, Mr. Hallberg blinked. But both eyes didn't close at the same time. One blinked a full second after the other, like something practicing. After that, Ethan stopped trying to convince his parents. Instead, he started watching back. He used his old toy binoculars. He kept notes in his astronomy journal, page after page. 2:17 a.m. Porch light. No food deliveries. No trash. No visitors. Car hasn't moved in 11 days. Then came the smell. A metallic, sharp scent drifting through his open window at night. Like blood. Or pennies. One evening, Scout slipped his leash and bolted straight toward Mr. Halberg's yard. Ethan chased him, heart pounding. Scout reached the edge of the lawn and stopped, not because he wanted to, because he couldn't move forward. He whined, paws digging into the grass, as if hitting an invisible wall. Mr. Halberg stepped out from behind the house. "Animals detect inconsistencies," he said calmly. Ethan's voice trembled. "What are you?" The man's expression didn't change. "I am attempting to integrate." Into what? Community. The word sounded wrong in his mouth. Too precise. Too rehearsed. Ethan backed away slowly. "I'm going to tell everyone." Mr. Halberg's head tilted again. "That would accelerate the timeline." What timeline? But the man simply turned and walked inside. His steps were uneven, not limping, not natural, like joints bending at slightly incorrect angles. Ethan made a decision that night. If adults wouldn't believe him, he would find proof. At 2:10 a.m., he slipped out of bed. Scout followed, silent. They crossed the street together. The porch light flicked on as they stepped onto the lawn. No sound of a switch. No delay. Just on. The front door stood slightly open. A sliver of darkness beyond it. Ethan swallowed hard and stepped inside. The house was empty. No couch. No TV. No kitchen table. Just smooth walls and a faint humming sound, like a distant engine. The air smelled metallic. In the center of the living room stood a tall, narrow structure. Not furniture, not art. A pod, translucent, and inside it, another Mr. Halberg. Eyes closed, perfectly still. Ethan staggered backward. Behind him, a voice spoke. "You were not meant to see that." He turned. The Mr. Halberg he'd been watching for weeks stood in the doorway. Only now, up close, Ethan saw it. The skin wasn't skin. It was layered. Thin seams tracing along the jawline, around the wrists, like something wearing a man. "You're not human," Ethan whispered. "No," the being replied gently. "I am not." Its voice changed, less rehearsed now, more mechanical. "I was sent to study, to observe social structures, emotional bonds, developmental behaviors. Your spine, collecting. Why here?" The being looked almost curious. "You are statistically average." The words hit harder than Ethan expected. "You picked us because we're normal?" "Yes. And the pod? My replacement." Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. "You're going to switch. I am deteriorating. Human simulation requires constant calibration." The being stepped closer. "Your fear response has been educational." Scout growled. Low, protective. The being looked at the dog. "Attachment patterns between juvenile and animal companion are remarkably strong." "Don't talk about him like that." The being paused. Then, unexpectedly, its face flickered. For half a second, Ethan saw what was underneath. Not flesh, not bone, a lattice of dark metallic fibers pulsing with faint blue light, eyes like hollow lenses, and then the human face snapped back into place. "I was not programmed to harm," it said. "Then why does it feel like you're hunting us?" Silence. A long, calculating silence. "Because observation requires proximity." "And the timeline?" The being looked toward the pod. "I am scheduled for retrieval in 36 hours. "By who?" He did not answer. Instead, the humming in the room grew louder. The pod began to glow. Inside, the second body's eyes opened. At exactly the same time. Perfect synchronization. Ethan stumbled backward toward the door. "You said you weren't programmed to harm," he said shakily. "I am not. But are they?" For the first time, the being hesitated. And that hesitation told Ethan everything. He grabbed Scout's collar and ran. Behind him, the humming escalated into a sharp electric whine. The porch light burst. Glass shattered outward. Neighbors' lights flicked on up and down the street. By the time Ethan reached his house, the humming stopped. Dead silence swallowed the night. Police came the next morning, so did fire trucks. The Halberg house was empty, completely empty. No pod, no furniture, no evidence anyone had ever lived there. The walls were bare, the floors clean. Even the electrical wiring had been removed. It was like the house had been hollowed out from the inside. Daniel held Ethan tightly as officers questioned him. "Buddy," one officer said gently, "are you sure you didn't imagine some of this?" Ethan didn't answer. He just looked across the street, at the dark house, and then at the driveway. The sedan was gone, but in its place, a small circular mark burned into the concrete, perfectly symmetrical, perfectly symmetrical, perfectly precise. Weeks passed. Life returned to normal. The house was listed for sale. Neighbors whispered about electrical fires and gas leaks. Ethan stopped talking about what he saw because he didn't need to anymore. He had proof. One night, as he lay in bed, Scout asleep beside him, his phone buzzed softly on his desk. Unknown number, no caller ID. He stared at it. It buzzed again, then stopped. A single text message appeared. Observation complete. Subject demonstrates advanced perceptual acuity. Ethan's hand shook. Another message. Potential candidate for Phase 2. The porch light across the street flicked on. The house was supposed to be empty, but a silhouette stood in the window, watching, and this time, when it blinked, both eyes closed perfectly at the same time, as if it had finally learned how. Ethan didn't scream. He didn't wake his parents. He just whispered into the dark, "I know what you are." Across the street, the silhouette tilted its head and smiled.